Coming up tonight on VCU InSight. Local gun store owners say they're seeing a dramatic rise in sales.
A local elementary school gets help from a local nonprofit. And Richmond's eviction freeze gets extended even further. All this and more.
VCU InSight starts right now.
From the Richard T. Robertson School of Media and Culture at Virginia Commonwealth University, named Best Student Newscast in the Mid-Atlantic, this is VCU InSight.
Good evening, and welcome to VCU InSight. I'm Christina Burgess.
And I'm Katie Mooney. Thanks for joining us. With the recent concerns about gun control laws in Virginia, some area gun stores say they've seen an increase in sales. InSight's Brad Vassar is reporting from our Richmond newsroom with more. Good evening, Brad.
Good evening, Katie. I recently spoke to the manager of a small gun shop on Hull Street, and he told me that as of recently, sales have skyrocketed. It seems that proposed legislation has given some smaller gun shops in the Richmond area more business. Bob Moat Sporting Goods in Chesterfield County has been selling guns for over 60 years. Manager Richard Hill says recent sales have increased between 500 to 1,000%. Handguns, or what he calls concealed guns, are selling the most.
We might have sold 5, 6 concealable guns a week. You can sell that in a day now, or more.
Last year, Democrats took control of the Virginia legislature for the first time in 2 decades. According to the criminal background reports under the Virginia State Police Firearms Transaction Program, sales have increased nearly 50% since last December. Hill says gun laws might be a reason why sales have gone up.
Yeah, there's a lot of scare, and everybody's trying to scramble to get what they can while they know they can. I don't blame them.
Down the road at Dominion Shooting Range, one gun rights advocate has concerns.
I think that red flag laws are dangerous. I think that constitutionally we are in very murky waters.
Red flag laws are designed to remove guns from those in danger of harming themselves or others. The Virginia Citizens Defense League says that red flag laws, also known as gun violence prevention laws, are essentially gun confiscation laws. South plans to continue carrying a firearm, but as far as what he'll do if it's confiscated?
I have a wife and a child on the way, so obviously I'm not going to want to join the gun brigade, but will I stand up for my rights? Yeah, at the end of the day I probably would.
Both the House of Delegates and the Senate have passed different versions of red flag laws. After differences are settled, Governor Northam is expected to sign one of them into legislation. Katie?
InSight's Brad Vassar reporting from our Richmond newsroom. Thanks, Brad. A local elementary school announced big improvements coming up for the school, all thanks to the charitable efforts of 2 nonprofit organizations. I caught up with Carver Elementary Principal Tijuana Giles to talk about the big event that's making it all possible.
So we think we're getting there. We've taken baby steps.
Baby steps were all she could take after Giles came to Carver in summer 2018. Before her arrival, the school's then principal and 5 teachers resigned after the state discovered an SOL cheating scandal.
I was excited of the possibilities because I believe in all kids.
Giles began by reaching out to the community for support.
Help us. We are Carver Nation. In order for us to be Carver Nation, it can't just be school and family. It has to be the community.
And the community responded when she introduced herself to the board of the Monument Avenue Preservation Society, MAPS. Edward Barlow, a board member for MAPS, was taken back by her testimony.
Everybody felt the same. We were like, okay, what can we do to help?
By the end of the meeting, MAPS began work on what became the Embrace Carver Elementary Foundation. Barlow and the rest of Embrace Carver brainstormed a fundraiser. Their idea, a 2-hour-long donation marathon, spread out along 4 homes on Monument, including Barlow's.
Went by fast. 2 hours went by fast.
By the end of the night, they had raised over $100,000. This fundraiser isn't Carver's only recent win.
Donated auditorium chairs. Courtesy of St. Catherine's, this gift has given a fresh new look for students and staff to admire. Now with $107,000 ready to spend, what's next for the Peanuts?
Whiteboards, a media center, technology for every student and teacher. And that's just the beginning. In a school where 90% of kids are financially disadvantaged, a donation like this makes all the difference.
We're just getting started. So there's so much more that we're going to do. So much more.
Embrace Carver is hoping to get another fundraiser going in the near future. So if you'd like to get involved, head over to their Facebook page to find out more.
Holding a cell phone while driving has already been banned in Richmond. Now, state lawmakers are pushing for legislation that would extend this to all of the Commonwealth. The Virginia House and the Senate have both passed the bill that would prohibit drivers from holding a cell phone while driving. The National Safety Council reports that cell phone use while driving leads to about 2 million crashes each year. Current Virginia law forbids entering text or numbers on a phone while driving. This current bill would make it illegal to hold a cell phone for any reason.
The Virginia Senate recently approved a bill raising the reckless driving threshold from 80 to 85 miles per hour. Senate Bill 65 was approved in a 25-14 vote, which would give drivers more free rein where the speed limit is 70 miles per hour. Speed-related reckless driving is defined as going 20 miles over the speed limit or exceeding 80 miles per hour. Current Virginia law says reckless driving is a misdemeanor and comes with a mandatory minimum fine of $250 if convicted. The bill would still have to pass the House of Delegates and be signed by the governor before becoming law.
Richmond has a reputation of having problems with housing, but steps are being taken to fix this citywide issue. InSight's Jakila Schulterbrandt is reporting from our Richmond newsroom. Good evening, Jakila.
Good evening, Christina. The eviction freeze has been extended twice since it began last October, giving residents more time to make their payments.
Always go to court if you get an eviction notice.
That's the kind of advice local residents heard at the recent Tenants Know Your Rights Forum put on by the City of Richmond. One of the top issues discussed? Eviction. According to the RVA Eviction Lab, Richmond has the nation's second highest eviction rate at about 11%, meaning over 1 out of every 10 renters is evicted every year. Amari Al-Gaddafi is with the Legal Aid Justice Center. He says Richmond's eviction crisis has been ignored for years.
The solutions they're coming up with aren't really sustainable. You know, they're not, the community doesn't have a lot of buy-in with the solutions.
Richmond's Creighton Court public housing community drew attention to this issue last October after 52 families were at risk of eviction. The Richmond Redevelopment Housing Authority then placed an eviction freeze on public housing. It was set to end in 2019, but it's been extended twice. Right now, I'm standing in Gilpin Court, one of the 6 public housing communities affected by this freeze. Now, the families in these homes are protected from eviction from February to May 1st. Residents can set up repayment plans to pay off their debts during this time. Housing Authority CEO Damon Duncan says the freeze gives an opportunity for residents to get back on track.
Rent is still due, all of the other charges are still due, but we're not moving forward with any court action.
Housing advocates are working with the authority to tackle this issue.
It's an opportunity not only for the residents, for us to all get on the same page.
The authority is now reevaluating their policies on how they collect rent and prioritize utility charges to avoid future evictions. Christina?
InSight's Jakila Schulterbrandt reporting from our Richmond newsroom. Thanks, Jakila.
New animal welfare legislature has recently passed the state Senate, including a bill that would change when and how a domestic animal can be tethered outdoors. If ratified, Senate Bill 272 would change the minimum legal tether length from 10 feet to 15 feet. It would also make it illegal to tether an animal outdoors during the night or during extreme weather. The bill was proposed in early January and passed in the Senate on February 10th. It's the most recent animal legislation after the Tommy Law, which made an animal abuse a felony crime, passed in July.
For some folks, during the recent Super Bowl Sunday wasn't just about football, it was about noodle bowls. The Pho King Championships kicked off their 10th year at Mekong, a local Vietnamese restaurant in Richmond known for its craft beer. Two-time champ John Reinhold and RVA Mag hosted it all. Contestants had to chug a beer, scarf down a bowl of pho, which is a noodle soup, and then chug it again. George DeRocher took home the gold. To get ready, he says he ate a big lunch. Cancer and cancer treatments are a difficult ordeal, but it turns out something simple and relatively cheap helps patients through this ordeal. InSight's Laura Bowen has more on how one local cancer diagnosis led to a legacy of giving.
Volunteers snip, tie, sew, and chat at a local library in late January. This is the community service-oriented sorority Sigma Delta Zeta's second time co-hosting an event with Jill's Blankets. This charity provides polar fleece blankets for chemo patients across Virginia. This work is especially meaningful for Mike Ward, the charity's treasurer, whose wife Jill started it all after being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2007.
She had to do a lot of chemotherapy, a lot of different treatments. And whenever she did that, she was cold. It didn't matter what time of year it was. The process made her cold.
The charity's website says Jill started making blankets for fellow chemo patients and continued delivering blankets as she got sicker. She died in 2013.
Not too long after that, her friends approached me about keeping her blanket making alive.
Jill's Blankets became an official charity in 2014. It has donated almost 3,000 blankets so far. Jill's Blankets has a delivery list that has grown from local infusion centers and hospitals in Richmond to locations in Virginia Beach, Charlottesville, Williamsburg, Petersburg, and Fredericksburg. Board members and volunteers like Karen Corals are working hard to keep Jill's mission going.
I applaud them for wanting to carry it on to help others, even though she's not still here.
Ward says he's thankful for every volunteer.
She was a great mother and a neighbor, good neighbor and good friend to just about everybody she met.
For VCU InSight, I'm Laura Bowen.
Jill's Blankets has a fleece cutting session February 27th to prep for an upcoming blanket making event on March 2nd.
The Library of Virginia in downtown Richmond is honoring the 100th year anniversary of the 19th Amendment with a women's suffrage exhibit. The 19th Amendment prohibits the states and the federal government from denying the right to vote to citizens of the United States based on the basis of sex. The exhibit is called We Demand: Women's Suffrage in Virginia and shows how women created two statewide organizations to win the right to vote. The exhibit is free and will run until December. And finally tonight, there are lots of ways for a child to show appreciation for their father.
One dedicated Chesterfield woman is going the extra mile to help people with the same medical condition as her father. InSight's Andy Riddler met with them to learn more.
Chesterfield native Phil Roswald continues to keep his body in shape in retirement despite being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
For me, like I have it's mild, and even the older I get, it's kind of fizzling out. It's what my neurologist said.
The National Multiple Sclerosis Society says that over 2 million people have MS worldwide. MS causes damage to the central nervous system that interferes with nerve signals between the brain and the body. He was diagnosed in his mid-20s, but that hasn't stopped him from picking up cycling as he grew older.
Riding is something we started, and it's a fun thing.
Phil's love for cycling inspired his daughter Cassie to cycle with him. And Cassie's love for her dad motivated her to do something extraordinary this summer.
In June 1st to August 1st, I'm biking across the country with an organization called Bike the US for MS. The inspiration started because my dad, my aunt, and one of my cousins live with MS.
Bike the US for MS is a nonprofit in Blacksburg that organizes cycling trips around the country to support people with MS. Cassie has already raised over $6,000 to help people this summer.
We're also stopping at a lot of people's homes who do have MS, and we're doing volunteer service for them, like raking their leaves or building ramps.
Cassie will continue to train and raise money for this summer with her dad by her side every step of the way. For VCU InSight, I'm Andy Riddler.
Cassie and Phil will bike the first 2 days together from Williamsburg to Mineral, Virginia. Until then, Cassie will continue to raise money to put towards helping people along the way. Well, that does it for this edition of VCU InSight.
You can see any of the stories from tonight's newscast by following us on Twitter and Facebook. Let us know about any stories you'd like to see on our show.
You can also find the full show on our YouTube page. Just search VCU InSight. Thanks for watching. I'm Katie Mooney.
And I'm Christina Burgess. We'll see you next time.